Hey, good morning, guys. You're joining me. I'm at the Prairie Knights Casino, and I'm extremely honored today to have the opportunity to do an interview with a musician who played here last night called Jason Mraz. Before we get into the interview, what I wanted to do with you guys is just give you a little look out the window. We've had some snow here, and if I'll just show you what this looks like. This is just looking out the window from the casino. As you can see, a lot of people would think this was a winter wonderland. Unfortunately, if people are sleeping in canvas tents, which some people still are, if people are sleeping in teepees that haven't fully been protected for the winter, some extremely harsh conditions at camp right now. There are reports of up to another 5 inches of snow falling today. However, we desperately need people to come to camp and stand up with a peaceful ward of protectors. And what I'd ask you guys to do if you are able to come is to start making your way here, because over the next coming days there are going to be some big game-changing things happen here. As you know, there's the eviction notice that was given by the Army Corps of Engineers, which was for the 5th, I believe, of December. And we have the veterans. There's up to about 2,000 was the last time I heard. They're coming from all across the US. If you're just joining right now, please go ahead and share this. You can also go to my Facebook page and look at the notes section of ways you can help. That's being built today. So if you please can share this as you're coming in. And as I said, the reason we're here today is I have the opportunity to interview Jason Mraz. He actually visited camp yesterday, and he wants to talk about what he saw at camp, and also a little bit about who he is for people who don't know who he is. There'll be a few of you out there. A little bit where his career started, what his goals in life are, and then talk specifically about Standing Rock and how he found out about it, and how he feels about the situation, and what you can do to help make sure that pipelines like this don't go into the ground, to make sure that the indigenous lives are no longer treated as lesser citizens, their lands are not stolen from them, their way of living and their belief system isn't looked down upon, and they're able to live themselves just exactly as they choose to live, just like any white man or white woman living in the US today. So I'm going to introduce you guys now to Jason.
Hey everyone.
Hey, thank you very much for joining. So Jason, can you tell us where you're from?
I'm originally from Mechanicsville, Virginia. Those are my native roots. My parents, we're second, third generation settlers here in the United States. We originally came from Europe. In 1999, I moved to San Diego, California, and that's where I make a home now.
Perfect. So this snow is something different for you then?
Well, growing up in Virginia, we did have all 4 seasons, so it is nice to visit the snow, but this level of snow where the roads are covered in ice, it's a little outside of my comfort zone, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and usually you wouldn't be here right now. You were already meant to be on your way out of here, were you not, as I understand it?
Exactly, so we came for the weekend, visited camp, and we played a benefit concert for the Standing Rock Sioux tribe last night. Everyone was planning on leaving this morning. I was going to be visiting Solon Middle School today and working with kids there because art drives any movement, and I love that I could have a chance to work with youth through the arts. And then our flight would have been tonight, but of course all flights are canceled, so we're snowed in here with everybody else.
Awesome. Well, as unfortunate as that is for the youth at the high school, I'm extremely grateful that we had a chance to get this opportunity to talk today and get hundreds of thousands of people to hear about this. So for the people that don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit about like your career, how you started out, and kind of how that took off?
Sure. I'm a singer-songwriter. I started writing original music in the mid to late 90s. In 99, early 2000s, I pursued more heavily a career in music, landed a record deal in 2001, and I've been putting out music on Atlantic Records ever since, and I've had the pleasure and privilege of traveling all around the world sharing songs. Most people know I'm Yours or I Won't Give Up. Those are some of my more famous songs, but I always try to write songs of healing, songs of hope, songs of personal transformation, in effort to raise consciousness.
Perfect. And then from a personal standpoint, you kind of spoke about healing within your own life. Are there some things you do kind of on a conscious level, meditation or prayer level? What kind of things do you do in your own life, and how do you use those kind of things?
Sure. Well, ever since I was a kid, art was a way for me to tap into something more mystical, more spiritual, and that I felt connected me to nature. It connected me to humanity. Art was an offering. And so I explored that all through my life. And then as an adult, as you're met with grown-up decisions, doing art, you're also met with self-worth. Like, wow, is this a valid profession? And the more I grow into my adulthood, I realize it is a very powerful profession. In my personal life, I use writing, music, meditation, and service as a way to stay grounded and stay connected. Those are my personal efforts. In 2010, I founded Jason Mraz Foundation to advance equality, humanitarianism, arts and education, and environmental conservation. And so when I saw this happening, I felt, what good is my foundation if I'm not literally acting, if my feet aren't on the ground, if I'm not witnessing what's going on, so that I can be of better service in the world.
Perfect. And what kind of places have you gone in the world with that foundation, and what kind of things has that done?
I've spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines, in Myanmar. I was one of the first Western artists to visit and play in Myanmar when their cultural walls came down, highlighting the human trafficking issues they have over there. There's a lot of migrants, and so when you're migrating from one country to another to find work, people are often tricked or fooled into indentured servitude or slavery. So we were there meeting with real survivors, finding out their stories, and helping to educate people so they can avoid that. I've been to Ghana for the very same situation. There's a lot of slavery there, especially among the youth. With environmental work, I've had the pleasure working with Climate Reality Project. They're constantly keeping us updated on science facts on the climate crisis. And again, being here at Standing Rock, I felt this is currently the front lines of the climate issue. There's a serious climate injustice happening here as we continue to take resources. When we know renewables are the way to go, we know other countries are getting 100% of their energy from renewables. It just seems absurd that we're continuing to invest in fossil fuels, especially at the cost of putting other people's lives in danger, and at the cost of potentially polluting our own water resources when we know there's a water scarcity in the United States. So Climate Reality Project, I've done a lot of work with them. Those to name a few. If you go follow my feeds or look at Jason Mraz Foundation, there'll be a history there.
That sounds awesome. And everyone who's just joining, we're coming from the Prairie Nights Casino. I'm here with Jason Mraz. Played a benefit concert for Standing Rock last night. He's been kind enough to do an interview. So anyone that's coming in, what we'd ask you to do is share this interview to get the word out. I will include some links later on, both to his foundation and also to Red Fawn. A lot of you are commenting about Red Fawn, Standing Rock's political prisoner. Some of the comments are talking about some of the state charges. State charges have been dropped right now. That's unconfirmed at this point. I want to have that information. I will share that information with you. So I'd ask you guys also, she's going to have a legal fund that we advertised last night. I'll put the link up for her legal fund. If you guys that are watching not only can share this, but if you can donate a few dollars to that legal fund, because even if the $110,000 bail is raised, we're still going to need a lot of money to cover the legal, to make sure that she doesn't end up spending time in jail for things she never did, and she doesn't end up being another person targeted who's originally from, believe it or not, the exact same place that Wounded Knee happened, down in South Dakota. So again, history's repeating itself. So what I'd like to do now is also talk to Jason about his experience at camp, because there's a lot of rumors that camp's dangerous. People don't want to come here because it's dangerous. There are companies that said they wouldn't come here, towing companies that have said, when the people are called AAA, that they've refused to come here because it's a dangerous place to come. So I'm going to ask Jason to speak a little bit about his experience at camp yesterday, kind of what he did. And as you're coming in now, if you can continue to share this, I know there's only 1,700 of you here. But if all 1,700 share this now, we can get this up to 100,000 views. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining. I will also share a link here as well with a YouTube video where I interviewed JC, and that's Paul's daughter. She's 8 years old. They drove 300 miles to come to the Iowa pipeline fight at Mississippi Stand, and she did an amazing interview with me, which is on YouTube, which I'd like you guys to have a look at too. So back with you, Jason. Sorry, I just wanted to give people coming in a little update as to what's going on so they know what we're talking about. So you came, you said you went to camp. When did you get to camp?
So I went to camp yesterday morning. I knew that they would have orientation at 9 o'clock, so I got there before then, and I sat through 2 orientations, one with the native to get an indigenous perspective, and then one for all new campers to understand the purpose of one's being there. And it's very important that you check your purpose on why you're there and how you can be of use. My experience of camp, within camp, very unified, very peaceful. It's indigenous centered, so there's the direction and the authority are coming from the elders, who are very peaceful people who are sitting in prayer constantly and who are moving very slowly. Because I believe to make a decision, you don't make a decision in haste. You sit with that decision and you feel what is going to be the best for all of humanity, for all people there. It's a gathering of many, many tribes, something that hasn't occurred in over 100 years. So it's a historical, very, very historical event. And,
Hi.
okay.
No problem.
So as I was saying, it's indigenous-centered. The goal is to build a new legacy. What's happening is, this is a fight, a resistance. I don't want to use the word fight. This is a resistance that's been occurring for 500 years, since colonialism, since settlers came here. And colonialism looks like land theft. It looks like the stealing or the taking of natural resources, and it looks like violence. And this is what's happening here. The violence and where I felt unsafe were the police forces that are parked on the burial mounds, where the barricade, where the tanks, where the armed vehicles, basically all sort of looming over the area. I mean, that's an eerie feeling. What's happening inside the camp is very, very peaceful. People are wanting to be of use, and there's many ways to do that. You can cook, you can wash dishes, you can help build structures, you can sort through food donations, you can just be picking up litter and cigarette butts, anything to just continue to leave the land as harmonious as possible, to be on the land as safely and cleanly as possible. And then the fourth goal there is to be to bring it home, bring that message home, and that's what I'm doing right now, sharing with you on Facebook, because it's one thing to be there, but again, check your purpose on why you're there and what you can do. And I'm someone who has enormous privilege. I have white privilege. I have an ability to speak out and connect with people, hopefully touching the heart of a person, a daughter, a fan of someone who might work for the oil industry, who can then say, you know what, Dad, Uncle, can you please not do this? Can we reroute the pipe? Can we rethink this? Can we divest? Can we instead invest in renewable energy? I feel through this action, through this conversation, through sharing our art, sharing our hearts, we can inspire and we can change and we can create real heroes out of these corporations who at the moment are looking very evil. And the thing that people in camp are grateful about the pipe for is that it is bringing this unity. It is bringing this awareness that they've not had in these 500 years of this resistance. So to have this many white people showing up to offer their love and support and their help in helping them build a new legacy going forward, where indigenous peoples and peoples of color aren't treated as second-class citizens, then that's a very, very powerful thing we can do right now in 2016 going into 2017, where white supremacy continues to govern and rule our nation, if not our world. So it's important that we all stand up and that we all show up and that we all be here, especially the fact that the camp has been given an eviction notice to be gone as of December 5th. And what's nervous about that is there's rumors that the National Guard is going to come in. Now, originally there was a camp on the other side of the bridge a few weeks ago, and that's when the campers were right in front of the pipeline, and the authorities destroyed that camp and put hundreds of people in jail. And so the camp was given permission to occupy peacefully where they are now at Oceti, Sakowin, which is a camp of prayerful resistance. It would do more harm than good to evict these people and to cause more violence, because the campers aren't the ones causing the violence. It's the authorities who are armed, who are using mace and pepper spray and dogs and rubber bullets and water cannons and casting a bad light on peaceful protesters. And to remove people, that's an infringement on our freedom of speech and our freedom to stand up and resist something that we feel is wrong.
Absolutely. And you spoke a little bit about white privilege.
Yeah.
For yourself, being someone who's in a position now where you do have a platform to speak from, what can you say about white privilege for yourself, like how you found advantages through it, or what you've seen, how you've been treated versus someone who doesn't have the same white privilege? I know you mentioned to me, how did you find out about Standing Rock? You mentioned you had a friend, I believe, that was Native.
Yeah, so I had seen some things through the summer about no DAPL, and it's like, okay, I know there's another ongoing fight to stop fossil fuels. And on October 6th, I got a message from a Native man who used to work at a farm in San Diego who I knew. And he sent me a text and saying, please come to Sacred Stone, we need your help. And I knew that he wouldn't have texted me unless it was important. So I started digging in and seeing how I could be of best of service, because both through my art form and through the color of my skin, I know that I have privileges. I know I have luxuries. My art has taken me all over the world. It's allowed me to open hearts and open commerce. So I knew I needed to find a way to come here, but not in vain. I started seeking out art programs and found concerts, and found through my friends Jackson Brown and Bonnie Raitt and Joel Raphael that they'd be doing a show here for the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, and I volunteered, and they gratefully said yes, I could come. So that's how I got here. The more I sat at home and did nothing, the more I just felt my soul diminishing. I felt, what good is having a gift to create art if I'm not using it, you know? So that's why I'm here.
That's amazing. For anyone who doesn't know, this is Jason Mraz. He's an amazing musician. He's an amazing, soulful and kind-hearted individual with an open heart who's looking to help change the world through showing other people how to use art to open their heart. So I know not everyone can come to Standing Rock. People have jobs, people have families. Some people aren't able to drop things. I do know people that have come who have stopped school, who have stopped work, left jobs to come and stand here, but not everyone has the benefit to do that. So what kind of advice would you give people who, you know, they don't like what's going on, they're upset about it? What can those people do that can't come and be here with us today?
Sure. Well, check your purpose. Really, really check your purpose and think, okay, how can I best be of service? Can I call a congressperson? Can I call my local Army Corps of Engineers? Can I post things? Can I have community meetings on how we as a community in a neighborhood can become a louder voice? See where your strengths lie, and then check where your spirit feels. If you're truly heartbroken about this and your job isn't satisfying you, and you feel you can do more satisfying work as a humanitarian on the ground here, helping to shovel snow or donate supplies, or just show strength in numbers, then yes, maybe coming here is your purpose. But again, check that. Don't just come in vain and think, hey, I'm at Standing Rock showing a peace sign for your Twitter or your Facebook. You know, I feel that our social media has tricked us, and now it's become this TV, and it's covered in advertisements, and we can just so easily flip from one picture to another to get our serotonin flowing, and we can add to that because we want to be seen on that television. If that's the case, maybe there's a way you can be seen doing something heroic, or you can disconnect yourself from that addiction you have to that egoic craving, and instead of watching TV or watching your Facebook, maybe you can get out in your own community and donate some goods that you know will be trucked here and are going to help some people on the ground who are putting their lives in danger for the greater good of all. I mean, when the people here are protecting water, they're also doing it for those who are laying the oil pipe. This water, not all water comes from a pipe. It first has to be laid down by the snow and go into our aquifers through our rivers and streams. And if we're going to pollute that with fossil fuels, we're putting everybody's health in danger. So the water protectors are here. They're not just doing it for their own good. They're doing it for the good of all. And so ask yourself, what can I do for the good of all? What can I do at home, either through my social media or through my actions?
That's beautiful. I love what you say about what you can do for the good of all. And the one thing, when I was talking before this interview with you, you mentioned that Standing Rock was the front line, not just for this, but for many things. Can you explain a little bit more about why you feel that?
I feel we've known for 50, 60, perhaps 70 years that we need to get off fossil fuels and move to renewable energy such as wind and solar. We've known that for a very, very long time. And unfortunately, the gas and oil companies who drive the transportation sector at the top of all the sectors they support, there's interest continue to win over what's getting built and what's getting done. And unfortunately, renewable energy such as wind and solar aren't being developed until every last drop of fossil fuels is taken. And as we're running out of fuels, we're creating tar sands and we're creating fracking, new ways of extracting oil and gas that honestly has not been tested enough, pollutes water even worse than drilling. So anyway, we know fossil fuels only harm the planet and only pollute the planet. They only add terrible emissions to the planet, causing climate change. We know this. And yet here we are again, continuing to build more pipes and drill more oil. Like, why are we doing that? We've had decades and decades of information and pleas to stop doing it. And meanwhile, other countries around the world are demonstrating that you can invest in renewable technologies. They're here now. And you can generate all of your energy, your heat, your electrical needs through wind and solar. It's all there. The technology has arrived, and yet we're not doing it yet. And so here is an example, a very small example of what's happening in our whole country. Here's 9,000 people right now being buried in snow, standing up saying, please don't let this oil flow. Please don't let this oil flow. I mean, that's 9,000 people in a country of 300 million people. And that is they're taking a huge, huge stand for everyone here. And that's why I feel that this is the front lines of the climate crisis, the front line of climate injustice. We're not doing anything to help the climate by continuing to allow oil to flow through. We have vehicles we can be driving that are electric. We have the consciousness to change our diets that can affect how food is produced, which also affects the climate. We have will, we have consciousness as people. And the people who are in that camp are demonstrating that will and that consciousness. And I'm hoping that it breaks the hearts of hundreds and thousands of Americans to raise their consciousness and advance the power in their own will to do something for the greater good. My wife and I are on the cusp of starting a family, but we're scared. Like, what kind of world are we going to be bringing them into, where this kind of election has occurred, where someone running can say anything that degrades people of color and denies environmental, denies climate change, that someone like that is about to take over the country, that something like this, where people are being tortured out here in the cold, is happening. Like, I'm scared to bring a child into this world. I'm feeling that this is all happening on my watch. And if I do bring a child into this world, what can I say I've done to help them, and what can I educate them with my own experiences, so that they can be conscious individuals, so that they can inspire their youth, so that indigenous peoples can have their sovereignty, and so that all people can be created equally. You know, this is a dream that we've all talked about for a long time, and it's still something that we need to stand up for.
No, absolutely. I'm getting a lot of comments here. I see there are hackers in the feed. I know I'm being hacked. I appreciate you guys letting me know. And it's interesting you bring that up, because as I was walking up the corridor talking to Jason about his experience at camp yesterday, he mentioned he actually went up to the bridge to 1806. So can you tell us a little bit about when you went up to the bridge yesterday?
Sure. I wanted to feel firsthand the barricade. It's a scary place because there are armed forces on the other side, and I wanted to make sure I was wearing my guitar so that it couldn't be mistaken as a weapon. A guitar is a guitar, and I wanted to offer a song. I wanted to offer a song of prayer, and I wanted to was going to just film a song and my experiences, but I actually had service on my phone, so I decided to do a live Facebook feed, which I hadn't done before. I got about 3 or 4 minutes into it and just started my song before the cold drained my battery completely. But I did capture the song on camera, which I'm looking forward to uploading the rest of it as well. It's a new song I wrote called We're All Connected. Just doing my best to hopefully remind us, no matter what side you're on, no matter who you vote for, no matter what car you drive, remember we are all connected in this. We're all connected to the land, we're all connected to each other, no matter what tribe you come from.
Absolutely. And guys, I know some of you will have watched yesterday. There's a big call to action for December 5th. Again, this whole movement has been started by the International Indigenous Youth Council, by those runners, and then supported by the elders. Well, up in Michigan, there's another youth there. Her name's Autumn, and she's put a call for action on the 5th of December for everybody to be able to go out into their local area and stand up and say no more pipelines. Now, yesterday, when I spoke about that, the person I was speaking with was an elder, and they talked about blocking interstates. So the call to action is still there. Please check back to my page by the end of the day, by midnight, and we'll have exactly what it is. Anonymous, Black Lives Matter, the Occupy movement, the Conscious Media Collective, and possibly Greenpeace and PETA are all going to be involved with this. There will be a Facebook page that people are able to copy and set up for their own town. So come back, I will do a live stream about that. It is not going to be blocking freeways because it's meant to be prayerful and peaceful, and we don't want people with federal charges. So we're going to have some more information for everyone for that yesterday. So I thought I'd announce that while Jason was here, because you were talking about people going out and doing things in their own areas. So I'll certainly get that information to you if you would be able to help push that out and let people know. Is there anything else finally you'd like to say to people sat at home, the people who haven't yet opened their hearts, the people who are still kind of stuck in the system and believing that, like I did for many years, that chasing money, chasing possessions would bring happiness?
That's right. Well, I will say that let's look at this election year. There were so many sources to get your information from, and a lot of it, almost everything people read are just assuming is a fact. So do trust that what you're seeing here on Kevin's feed is the real deal. It is a peaceful resistance. It is a peaceful resistance. I've seen it with my own eyes. I went through the orientation. They demand that no one in the camp use alcohol, drugs, or bring any firearms, any weapons of any kind. That includes screwdrivers, tire irons, anything you might have in your car for your own car's needs, that could be used against you. And they want to make sure that anyone who's resisting this is doing so with prayer, with song, with their hands raised in peace. So trust that anything else you see out there, this is not a violent protest. We're only being met with violence from the other side. And And then also careful of your words out there that you also don't create anger and create hate and further this movement in your own town or in your neighborhood or at your local restaurants. We have to build a new legacy. We have to build a brand new legacy going forward. That's one that's built on kindness. We have to respect that 500 years ago our settlers came over here and stole this land from other people. And we've continued to build on that and build on that and build on that through the taking of natural resources. And we've done that through this environmental amnesia, if you will, where we see an oil spill and we go, oh, that sucks. But then we kind of get used to it and we say, well, that's normal because there's enough water and eventually environment will mitigate itself, bioremediate itself. And so we create a new level of normal and then we move on. And then more rainforests are pillaged and more mountaintops are removed and more oil rigs go in, even though we know there's been spills, but those are the new normal. So we have this amnesia as if things in the past are okay now. Things in the past are in the past. We have to forgive ourselves and others of what that is, but now we are alive and we're the ones responsible to build a new legacy going forward. We have the power to change, to change government, to change our food system, to change our transportation, our energy system. We really do. We really do. And we're not going to do that just by sitting on the couch watching TV or arguing with other people that someone else should do it. We have to do it with our own actions. How we buy our food, where we source our food, the kinds of products we buy, who we're buying our gas from, where we're investing our money. Check to see if your bank is funding this pipeline. And if it is, withdraw your money from that bank and go to maybe a local credit union in your area where that money could be better used in your municipalities. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. Don't just use your words for more violence and more hate. That's my request. Art drives this movement. So if you out there are an artist, make something artful that can break open someone's heart so that they can make art and they can make art and we can educate through art. I feel that's one of the strongest ways we can deliver a message, is if we can sugarcoat it in a beautiful melody or in a sweet artistic package that compels you to want to watch and learn and listen and act.
Wow. I'm so grateful for you taking some time to come and share today, and really appreciate the fact that you're here, and look forward to following what you're doing with your foundation and seeing if there's any ways I can help support that as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and stay tuned for more.
All right, guys, please go ahead and share this and pop back later. Sign up for the subscribe to the feeds as well, please, because then you'll get the notifications. Peace.